Good morning. Glad you joined us today. And we're going to be in Matthew chapter 28 in a minute or two here. But I want to talk about a couple other things. First it's a busy life. And I remember years ago, this statement, one of the staff guys said, as soon as things slow down, and what a dumb statement. I mean, we kept hoping, but things don't slow down around here. And there's no such thing as a summer vacation. I know when COVID hit, our staff jumped in, and especially our staff men, and they all picked up more jobs. I don't know if you remember, but we didn't have an FM station going around the property in the area, and we didn't have YouTube, and we didn't have live streaming services, and we didn't have this, and all these things. And our guys just jumped on and made it all happen and figured out the technology. And then for a little while, we had services outdoors, and our staff guys put together kids Sunday school where everybody be listening through the FM. I'd be on a hillside, and they'd turn the radio onto the FM. They could hear the service. We'd do singing. It was horrible. It was me up there or whoever with me singing with a guitar, maybe a keyboard, and it just not. We didn't do that very long. I don't remember how long, but then at some point in the service, I'd get word from one of the staff guys, and then we could put the young people on something else technologically. And that was it's the one time we okayed headphones. Now, of course, every family does what they want, but we said if you wouldn't mind your kids using headphones, the parents could be listening to me through the FM on the radio in their car, and the kids could be listening to a children's service in the back seat. We don't want to neglect our kids. And I don't know how long it lasted. Pretty quick, our parents voted, let's get the kids in Sunday school, let's get back in church. And we did outdoor. We moved into chairs and just said, look, just sit as close as you want if you don't want to sit close to people. And I think the whole thing was a ridiculous fraud. Not just me. And I'm not saying that people didn't get sick. I'm saying I don't know, a year in my life people didn't get sick, and some get sicker, some don't. And this could have been China-made, American-made, Fauci-made, Trump-made, I don't know. But I know this, there was something fraudulent in the whole way it's been handled. And now the repercussions, boy, there's been a lot of problems that resulted from these vaccinations and things. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving any medical advice, but just a number of athletes who have serious heart problems or have dropped dead, all forced vaccinations, and obviously everybody wasn't forced to get them, but many of them. But in any case, through all that, our staff has worked and worked. Well, summertime's that way around here. There's camps and conferences and trips, and this summer I've got 7 college interns working with me this summer, and they don't get paid. 5 of them don't. 2 I had planned ahead of time to hire part-time, and that was before I knew I'd have any interns. Well, then I found out I had others who would, but so I've got 7 young people working. So there's teaching and there's organizing, and they're involved in so much. And this week I took them to a gun range, and we went out because it's such beautiful weather to be outdoors, and we were just dripping with sweat, but they all had a great time. Some of our interns had never fired a gun before, and so we had pistol, rifle, shotgun going on, and everybody decided they wanted to go do that again. But anyway, I am thankful for our church, thankful for our staff, thankful for all that goes on, and we are busy. And I keep thinking I should slow things down, but I don't know what I don't want to do. I love what I get to do. I hope you like your job. I hope you like what you get to do. I love what I get to do, and I just couldn't imagine doing anything else with my life. But I want to mention something besides that, and I don't know how I got on our staff. I'm just so thankful for our staff. And I guess I just commented on busy summer. It is busy. And in a few days, I'm going to get to go to the fishing trip with the men up to Bishop, the mountains above Bishop. We'll be camping at about 8,000 feet up in the Sierras, and then fishing up higher than that. And it'll be cold every year. I struggle with bringing anything long sleeve because it's so hot here. And I get up there, and a couple of years I've gone down to the valley and bought a sweatshirt because it was so cold, at least at night and in the morning when you first get up. And then I'm going to take a Monday to Friday with my kids. and we're going to go spend some time. I won't miss Sunday, but we're going to spend some time. We just rented a cabin up in the middle of nowhere and hang out together. So it's a good life. God's been good to us. And if you've got family, love them. Get along. Don't fuss. Figure out how to get along with your family. I want to mention something. This October, I believe it's the 35th anniversary of our friend Jose Ruiz, his church. And if you're in church, you'll see a couple of pictures. We'll show them to you. And he's a great guy. He was an engineer working in Saudi Arabia, born and raised in the Philippines, and went over to Saudi. He was working in the sugarcane fields. He watched his dad every day just cutting sugarcane. That was his job, and piling on these trucks. And it's a just barely keep clothes on your kid's back kind of a job. And Brother Ruiz, he said, as a boy, I decided I wasn't going to do this. So at nights he'd started going to school. And as he grew older, he went to more school, and he found a way to work his way into some engineering school, and he got a job as an engineer, graduated with an engineering degree, went over to Saudi Arabia working in the oil fields and all that was going on there, made very, very good money. But he was saved, and he knew he should be serving God. And so he left the lucrative work of engineering in Saudi Arabia, and he came back to the Philippines, to a little place called Sagay City. There's no malls. There's hardly any stores. And what a church. And so we're going to be there. And he asked me, he said, would you just come? We won't run a heavy schedule. Usually when we have a group there, we're in 2 or 3 schools every day, and we're running exhausted pace. But all we're going to do, just me and one of our staff men, I'll just preach probably a couple of times a day to pastors. And then they have a missions conference and their anniversary Sunday. And so I said I'd do that. I'm not going to run a breakneck schedule. But they've got this new building they're wrapping up. And he said, if you think to pray, we need new, I forget how many chairs. I'll have it when we get in church, Lord willing. But I think he said he needed 500 chairs and new chairs because they're expanding the auditorium. And they said, we're not going to try and build pews. We're just going to buy these inexpensive plastic chairs. And with us Americans, they wouldn't last because we're supersized, but the Filipinos, they can get along with that. So I was thinking, I mentioned this in church the other day. I said, if you want to be a part of putting chairs in the new building at Bible Baptist Church there in Sagay City, just put $10 in an envelope, market chairs. Well, the first envelope in my hand, I was going to turn it around, but I won't put who gave it to me. But it's one of our widows who doesn't have a thing, and living in just a tiny little apartment. And she said, here, take this. And I looked at it, chairs in the Philippines. And I haven't opened it. I'm assuming there's $10 in it, but it could be $1,000 for all I know. But I'm assuming $10. She doesn't have a thing. But I thought, I'm so thankful for our church. People want to help and want to be a part of things. And so if you'd like to help us and have a chair, I mentioned in church the other day that we put in all the tile. We bought the tile for the platform area, and I'm not sure how much of the building. I know the platform, and I can't remember how far, but we bought a lot of tile. And we just want to be a help. We want to have an influence around the world. And what an exciting thing we get to do that. And I'm grateful. But anyway, if you want to be a help, that's a great thing. Also, I mentioned 3 of our young ladies who are summer interns that are not getting paid. They are going to Belize, to Israel and Tanya Alvarez, a young couple from our church. She's from our church. He's from a church in L.A., but sent out of our church and their home church there in L.A., and they're our kids. And anyway, we have this group, 23, I think, going down there. And I told the girls, you're working, they're being trained, and it's like schooling during the summer, but they don't get an income. And so I said we'd find a way to pay their way. So if you'd like to help me find a way to pay their way, put something in an envelope and just mark it Belize or mark it missions trip, and we'll make sure that gets toward their way. We're going to figure out a way to do that. But there's a lot of things. We need a lot of money. And I want to just challenge you, pray for money. Don't pray. James says you have not because you ask not, and you ask and receive not because you ask amiss that you may consume it on your own lust. And so James tells us a lot of the asking we ask, we don't get it because it's all about us. So ask for others. Pray for that raise, pray for that unusual income, pray something unusual happens so you can be a blessing to buy chairs, to send college girls to on this missions trip in a few weeks, or to help us. We got projects here. I'm going to talk about it a lot. We got 4 different projects here on the property we want to do, and finish new roofing the Sunday school building, a nice fellowship area, patio, shaded garden type patio area we're putting in behind the Sunday school building, and then finishing remodeling the restrooms in the church building, and then we need a new building. That's the bottom line. We are fast approaching the day we're going to need double services again. We've done it before the half of California moved out. But and I love getting to do what we do, and whatever happens, it's going to be fine. And so we want new people. We want people saved, baptized, growing in grace. We need Sunday school teachers, bus workers, bus drivers, but and a lot of money. So pray, ask God to help us. Ask God to send somebody to help financially, and you might be like the widow who says, I'm guessing there's a $10 bill in there. I don't know, probably a $10 bill. It could be a check. I don't know, but pray, ask God to help us. So anyway, I wanted to mention something today, just a quick thought or two. In Matthew 28, Jesus has been crucified, and he's risen from the dead. And there were some guards at the tomb. And there's a problem, because this angel showed up, rolled away the stone. The guards all fell down like dead men. They weren't very brave, were they? And so I'm going to read a verse or two, starting at verse 11. Now when they were going, behold, some of the watch, the guards, came to the city. So these guys, they saw an angel. Look, verse 4, for fear of him, fear of the angels, the keepers did shake and become as dead men. And the angel answered and said to the women, these ladies that came to the tomb, fear not, for I know that you seek Jesus, which is crucified. He's not here. He's risen, as he said. Come see the place where the Lord lay. And go quickly tell his disciples, he's risen from the dead, and behold, he goeth before you to Galilee, and there shall you see him. And they departed. Well, these disciples took off, and these guards, what do? And so these guards are working their way back toward town, and the stories are that if you fell asleep on the job, you would be killed, and if you let a prisoner escape, you'd be killed. They killed a lot of people in those days. And so these soldiers, they come in, and verse 11, now when they were going, the disciples were going, behold, some of the watch, the guards, came to the city and showed the chief priests all the things that were done. So these guys told about the stone being rolled away, the angel, the women, all the body being gone. They told, so now we got the guards and we got the priests. They all know what happened. And verse 12, and when they were assembled with the elders, so these are now the religious leaders, and they had taken counsel, they gave large money unto the soldiers. Well, how did those soldiers come home from work with all this money and not tell their wives what happened that day? Of course, they told somebody. They told their friends, their wives, their neighbor, whatever. And verse 13 saying is this, and the elders and the religious leaders, the chief priests, verse 13, say ye, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we slept. And if this come to the governor's ears, we will persuade him and secure ye. So they took the money and did as they were taught. And this saying is commonly reported among the Jews to this day. Now, these guys knew the truth. And the religious leaders knew the truth. They're the ones who went to Pilate and said he was going to rise in 3 days. Could we get a guard to guard that thing? And they were afraid he'd raise from the dead. And the guards saw it. They saw the angels. Or the angel, they saw the women, they saw the empty tomb, all that stuff. But the money was given to them, and they bought into it. Now, just a couple of thoughts real quickly here. There's some things that move people: popularity, money, fear of being unpopular, maybe fear of loss of a job, fear of being isolated. People like to be in the crowd, and if there's a problem and they see someone being isolated, a lot of people, they don't dislike that person and they don't necessarily believe anything wrong with them, but they will withdraw because they don't want to be isolated with that person. Which, by the way, if the person's right, just be isolated with them. Just go ahead and join in and be a part of the ones who stood. I think of the story long before, like in the 60s, before the Berlin Wall went down, and there were Christians imprisoned all over Russia. and the story of these Christian prisoners that had been imprisoned. They were basically going to march them to death and freeze to death, and they were brought out to this lake, and they were made to strip their clothes off and walk around this lake. And as they began marching, and these guards just watched them. Guards, of course, fully clothed, coats and all, and they said they watched them, and they sang as they went, and they chanted Bible verses. They walked around in the freezing cold weather, and one of them dropped, and just from exposure and whatever it might have been, dropped and died, and hypothermia, whatever it might have been. And at that point, the others just kept on going, quoting verses, singing songs. Well, one of the guards stripped off his clothes and joined them. Their testimony was so powerful that he stepped across the line with those who were isolated rather than staying in this secure place. But that's rare. You don't hear about any of the other guards doing that. It's a rare thing. People don't like to be isolated. They don't like to be outside the camp. They don't like to be in the fringe where they're not secure in the crowd. And so for whatever reason, we don't know what was in these guys' hearts, but for whatever reason, they accepted the money and went against what they knew good and well was true. And money may be the biggest thing. The love of money is the root of all evil. And these guys, for whatever reason, accepted the money, and they lied. And they lied, and they lied, and they lied. But you know what else? The chief priests and the elders of the people, they lied, and they lied, and they all knew the truth. Now, I want to just challenge you today. I want to remind you, number one, and challenge you, number two, just because somebody says something doesn't mean they believe it. Just because they say it on paper or social media, or because they tell you what they saw or heard, that doesn't mean they believe it, and it sure doesn't mean you should believe it. We are in a culture where people are such cowards, and they're worried about getting in trouble, and the world moves that way. Why do we keep the speed limit? We don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to give the governor any more money. Why do you wear seatbelts? You don't want to get a ticket. And I'm sure there's some people do it for safety's sake, but most people keep the speed limit all out of fear. Well, money moves us, and fear moves us, and isolation and getting in trouble moves us. And here these guys, these are people who knew absolutely the truth. And they said the exact opposite. Now, you be very careful not to just instantly believe something because somebody said it, even if multiple people said it. If you go back to the Leviticus and Deuteronomy, when they're talking about the law and how you settle things, they said at the voice of one witness, you can't condemn a man. And two witnesses don't condemn him either, but at least it then gives you reason to look into it. But if there's not multiple witnesses, don't just assume people. In this culture we're in, they want you to assume it. Well, if somebody said it, it must be true. No, as a matter of fact, let God be true and every man a liar. And we are in a world where there's so much lying, and especially if there's money involved. When it comes to things that go on in jobs and promotions and sales, and just today, things you've all heard about. Somebody was telling about their family member, someone died, and they'd already told everybody what they wanted to do with their estate, that one of the relatives that had a little money so they could manipulate, and no one else had the money to fight the manipulating, and it appeared none of the things that the person desired to have happen happened. Now, we need to just step back and understand money will get people to lie, and fear will get people to lie. Some people will lie for fear of what their spouse will say or what their spouse will do. If you do that, I am done with you. Well, my thought is I'm going to do what's right, and you can be done with me if you want. Because over in Proverbs, it says, buy the truth and sell it not, also wisdom and instruction. And if my wife ever were to give me an ultimatum where I pick her or the truth, it's just going to be a sad day because I'm picking the truth. The truth is not available for sale. The truth is the truth. And I know that's very unpopular in our culture because we don't honor our word. But it's not just about my word; it's about the word. See, with truth, we ought to do what we do because it's not a matter of what I think; it's what God says. And these soldiers, these guys knew. It says, "Say ye, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we slept." There's no way. That was such a lie. And they just took the large amount of money and lied. And I hope that you have enough character that money won't make you lie. I hope you have enough personal integrity that if you find yourself being accepted by the group or being isolated for the truth's sake, that you'll accept the isolation. And there's scripture all through the Bible about this, but in Hebrews it talks about come outside the camp with Jesus. He wasn't crucified in the city. He was crucified outside the camp. In the Old Testament, the scapegoat was sent out into the wilderness carrying the sin. There's all kinds of illustration in the Old Testament. If we're going to stand up for God, we're going to be away from the crowd. And let's have integrity. And even if someone else sells out, let's don't sell out. Let's decide we're going to be honorable, we're going to be true, and that we're not going to be, I've heard people say every man has their price. Oh, I hope it's not true. I hope it's not true that every man has his price. I hope there's a bunch of us who would say, no, I'm going to do the right thing. Like it or not, we're going to do the right thing. Hey, I hope you have a good day. Just want to remind you, we are busy. Pray about our soul winning. Pray about our Sunday school. Pray about souls being saved and baptized. Things are great. And so I hope you'll pray. Pray for our Bible study Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, our Sunday school, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night services. Our Sunday night service has been great. I hope you come Sunday night and Wednesday night. We have had the church service, the church auditorium has been full. And that is exciting. And I love it. And I can hardly wait for the fall when it gets more full, when people are done with vacationing and we'll lose college students going back to school. But boy, let's fill up the buildings and let's live for God.